Okay, so excuse the lighting. This is a video done in the car outside, um, and there's absolutely no lights outside where I live. It's totally pitch black. It's good for seeing stars, but maybe the best for not doing videos. But I wanted to get this one done today. Um, so, following on from our series about anxiety, I think what I've been trying to do in some ways is make a case for the opposite ends of the scale, that anxiety and thoughts are to the other end, which is being able to feel sensations. And so that was the point of that short exercise, which I hope if you've heard it, you have managed to practice a few times and continue to do so. And you will sharpen a faculty by doing that, which is the ability to drop out of thought and into feeling, sensation, and thus quell anxious thinking, anxious thoughts. So I've been making a case for that little dynamic, and see, I try and do this every morning, or when I can, when there's time. I try and start the day with coming into the body, detaching from thought, and making that space, getting into who and what I really am, on a deeper level, rather than being dragged along by this train of thought, attaching to it, identifying with it, believing it, and living my life through this train of thought. And that's not to say that throughout the day or I certainly don't end up attached to that and in the thought stream. I think it's very difficult for that not to be happening. But that's just that's real life for you, being drawn into situations and how you think about it. But I like to start the day by, some people call it, I don't know, centering or some other name. Now, I noticed that this morning it was really difficult to do that. It was really, really difficult to come away from thoughts. It was just, I ascribe to it a quality of stickiness, and in terms of how sticky your thoughts can be, or how sticky your thought stream can be. And on this occasion, it's just unbelievably, I am absolutely glued to the thoughts, and so I'll keep coming back to the body. I'll look for the sensation in the part of the body that I prefer, whenever that is. And so I'll get that. I was get that for like a second or a few seconds, and then before I know it, and without even realizing, for long periods of time, I'm back in the thinking, what's going to happen then, and what's happening here, on this thing that happened the other day, and then realizing after a long time, oh God, I'm back in that, and then to come out of it again, coming back into the sensation. Now, usually when I'm on my game, that doesn't take too long. It doesn't take too long to come out of the thought stream and just settle into the body and start my day off in the right way. But this morning was just incredibly difficult. And I know exactly why that is. It's because the situation that we're in now, with lockdown and not being in work, some days not having any structure, I'm prone to distractions. Now, I don't suffer generally anymore with anxiety, so I don't feel the need to monitor my level of distractions much. I do know when they can get out of control, and when I say distractions, I mean phones, social media, internet, TV, things that on one level I think I'm using for switching off, but it can pass the mark where it turns from switching off into just numbing numbing the mind and the body to complete distraction, away from reality, away from the things that need to be looked at or dealt with. So during this time, and especially yesterday, I mean, I spent so much time on the phone. And of course, what the phone is, this device for distraction, social media and internet, what that's doing, that's generating even more and more thoughts, more thoughts running away with themselves. Pardon me. More faster thought stream, even more intense stickiness to the thought stream and to thoughts. So distractions like phones especially, and this this magical screen, the doorway to infinity, as a good friend of mine calls it, bearing in mind with what's accessible on the phone now. It takes us out of our being. It takes us into thought world. And for me, I spent far too much time in there yesterday. And there's no magic amount of time. It's measured by how difficult it can then be to leave thought world and come back into the body. And I know that I'd massively OD'd, if you like, on my phones and internet and TV all day yesterday, because this morning I was just absolutely glued to the thought stream. I found it really difficult. Over and over and over and over again, I tried to get into sensation, but the thoughts just running away with themselves, and just absolutely being attached and dragged along by them. Now, I liken that to the what it's like when you're consumed by anxious thinking. I mean, these thoughts weren't necessarily anxious. They were whatever they were, but they were uncontrollable. But when you have anxious thoughts, it's of that nature, for me anyway, and for the reading that I done, it was for a lot of other people, just absolutely consumed. I mean, as I said before in a previous video, lots of people, you might not even be aware of what I'm talking about, because you may have lived all of your life attached to your thought stream without realizing that you're something else behind the thoughts, and that you can have breaks in between thinking, and you can use thought more constructively rather than being subject to it. That might be you. You might be querying what I'm saying. That's why I gave you the experiment to do, to see if you can exist on another level other than in this world of just being absolutely consumed by the thought stream, and giving full credence and credibility to every single one of those thoughts. So coming away from that is the trick, and I just wanted to highlight today the things that can send us further and further into thought world, into the world of anxiety, and make it much harder for us to come away from that and quell anxious thinking. Now, of course, distractions is one of the short-term methods that I spoke of in terms of helping with this, but there is a limit, there is a line, and at the end of the day, you've got to look after your mind. You've got to protect your mind from being dragged along into the incessant thought stream that has you completely at it. You're at its mercy. So general technology these days, that is a concern for this kind of work, and this is why we're seeing these alarming rates of young people massively affected mental health wise. There seems to be some correlation. I don't know what the data is. I know some people are doing studies. We can only theorize at the minute, but there's correlations between mental health, the rise of negative mental health in young people, and the usage of mobile technology and social media. I mean, we can delve into this further, but yeah, the social media, the constant bombarding your own mind with other people's thoughts, opinions, things going on, liking this, liking that, self-affirmation, self-esteem, positive, negative. It's just an absolute minefield for bringing you totally out of centre. You want to get to your centre if you want to quell anxiety, and to do that, you need to protect your mind from the incessant, uncontrollable thought stream. So I just thought I'd share that with how difficult it was for me today, and what the relationship with that was, which was absolutely 100% apparent to me with how I'd spent my previous day doing what. And it makes absolute sense. It's like a maths equation, 2 + 2 = 4. If I do all of them things and spend all my time doing that, I will find it much harder the next day, or whenever it is, to free myself from this crazy world of abstract thought, which is a million miles away from my true reality, which is sitting here now as a biological entity, breathing, amongst other things, speaking, listening. Yeah, it's those moments of presence where you drop into what reality actually is for a minute. That's all of a sudden. Then, when I done that, I felt a wave of peace of mind and ease. So that's where we want to be as much as we can. So be careful of the things which make it more difficult for you to access that place. It's it's hard enough in your day to day going about your business, taking the time to be present and not attached to your thinking. So if you're overdoing things to the point where when you sit down you can't even come out of that, then this is where the work is, where the practice is. So I'll leave it on that, and I'll do another video soon in better lighting, and hope everyone's well.